Welcome to the Pitch Secrets Masterclass. I am your esteemed host, Frederick Douglass Bussey. I'm the founder of Icon Status and the Seven Figure Circle $1 Million Mastermind Facebook group, which you are now watching this live in. And we're excited to be here with you. Tonight, we've got an amazing treat for those of you who have a business and you are in the process of trying to get more clients, trying to get more customers, trying desperately to pitch for business, hoping that you're able to win it. And the presenter that we have for the class tonight is someone that I was introduced to by another presenter from one of our previous master classes. They work together in tandem to help business owners to be able to implement this process. And tonight, what's so amazing about this is that they're going to give you the entire process free here tonight. He's going to walk you through the entire process for the ultimate quote and what that really means, which will allow you to be able to outpace your competitors, which will allow you to be able to win more business. This process, which I'll talk about here in a second, I will tell about what is enabled him to be able to do in his business as well. So without further ado, so we can maximize the time, I want to get into it. And I want to make sure that you all have everything you need to get going. You're going to want to ask questions. If you have questions, drop those in the chat. If you have comments, feedback, whatever the case may be, he's also going to make this all available to you. And I'm going to say this again at the end, but I'll let you know now. If you want to email him, he will send you the book whereby he walks through this entire process as well. So you'll have all of these, all the information. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't watch this. And if you're watching this on replay and thinking, well, let me just skip to the end and get the email address. What I'm telling you now is that there's a tremendous amount of value in having him explain it to you live, to be able to break it down and being able to understand the core concepts and principles behind it. And I want to iterate this as well, which I'm sure he may share as well. But we talked about this a bit on the podcast also, that the value of this process is the thinking behind it and understanding that this is a strategy that can work for any business, no matter what, because you're going to understand there's some key things that people need to know and understand about your business. There's some key things that you need to be able to articulate in your positioning for your brand to be able to stand out from everyone else. And what most people do, what 99.99% of businesses do, is they do what everyone else is doing. They do it the way that other people are doing it because they want to appear the most competent. And so they don't want to stand out. They actually want to look alike with everyone else. And the key to winning more business, the key to being a category of one business, to being a 1% business, is understanding how to do the extra, the slight perspective shift, the understanding of the principles at a deeper level that allows you to be able to be the leader of the pack. And if you don't want to be an also-ran, if you don't want to be competing with everyone else, but you want to make everyone else compete to be second place to you in your industry, in your town, in your city, in your country, your state, whatever the case may be, this is a really, really important lesson for you to be able to learn the process that we're going to talk about here tonight. Okay. So I just quickly want to share with you who our presenter is for the evening so you can understand a little bit more about what we're going to be talking about here and who is going to be sharing this. I'm having technical difficulties here as here we go. Okay. Our presenter for the evening is Hugh Thyer, who is a direct response copywriter who has a unique and powerful weapon. He has achieved success in many industries, including finance and investing and business opportunity, and has many longtime clients who have benefited enormously from his association with them. However, he also runs a manufacturing business with his wife, and a couple of years ago, their business wasn't getting enough sales. The reason it turned out was the way they were presenting their price. So Hugh used his copywriting skills to create a new way of presenting their prices, and this document suddenly doubled the number of sales they were getting. And this was out spending 1 cent more in advertising. Hugh has called this the ultimate quote formula, and he believes there isn't an industry which couldn't significantly benefit by presenting prices in this powerful way. And that is what Hugh is here to talk about this evening. Please welcome with me our presenter for the evening, Mr. Hugh Thyer. Hugh, how are you?
I'm going brilliantly. And how are you?
I'm doing amazing. Really glad to be here with you this evening for me, morning for you. It is Thursday morning for you, Wednesday morning for you.
Yeah, Wednesday morning. So yeah, I don't know if you normally run these at a different time, but thanks. If you don't, then thanks for changing the time. Yes, it's like 11 o'clock in the morning, and some of the other times that we were trying to get together were like 3 or 4 a.m. Also, thanks for that great intro. You've done a lot of the heavy lifting for me, because what we're going to be talking about today is, as you said, it's like most businesses are doing the same kind of things as all their competitors, and sometimes it only takes a few different things and a few shifts to really leapfrog ahead of your competition, and all the marketing and sales and everything that you teach is all about that. And this is one thing that will also contribute to the growth of any business, because it's done wonders for ours. And as you said, it's something that we turned into a bit of an offering as well from a copywriting perspective. Now, have you got the slides up?
I've got those. I'm ready to click and add them. I'm going to turn that on as soon as I let you go here.
Yep.
I just want to do one quick thing. I want, for those of you who are watching in the Facebook group, drop in the comments. Let us know where you're watching us from. And if you have not yet allowed StreamYard to recognize your name, do that so we can see your name as you're asking questions. He was going to take questions here at the end of the presentation for those of you who want a little bit more in-depth understanding, and maybe even want to be able to figure out how you can customize this to your business as well. So I want to make sure that we can call you by name. I can't see your name if you don't allow Facebook to do that. So drop a comment in the chat and let us know where you're watching from, what your name is. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Hugh. Let me add this here. All right. And
Okay.
you have the controls. Take it away.
Okay. So the ultimate quote format is really a way of presenting pricing, and I'll explain why that's important. In a world of everyone trying to optimize all their digital advertising, the sales funnels, the sales presentations, everything they do, there's actually one opportunity that most business owners, or nearly all business owners, are missing in order to get more sales. And that's exactly what we're covering. And the exciting thing is, because no one is doing this, it's an open book. You can really take this to town. So I've got my contact details there. I do have a book that I can give you, so it goes through this process, but of course not in the kind of detail that we'll be going through today, but it's worth looking at. So if you just want to take my email address down and flick me an email, I'm happy to reply to that and send you the book out. Now, I didn't discuss this with you, Frederick, but if we have anyone who's willing to put up their business niche, as I go through some of the content, I might be able to come up with some ideas which are specific to you guys. So if anyone wants to put in the private chat an industry that you're in, it might just give me an opportunity to come up with some examples and help you out. The more examples we talk about today, the better it will be for everyone, because if you're an electrician and there's a plumber listening, the plumber can pick up ideas that will apply to them as well. So feel free to put anything in the chat. If Frederick, I can't see anything in the chat at the moment, that might just be me, because I'm not actually logged into StreamYard. So let me know if anything comes through.
Okay, will do.
And any questions, feel free to jump in. I like to keep this a little bit informal. There's obviously a lot of slides I'm going to work through with you, but I'm happy to take us on a tangent if someone comes up with a new idea or a new question. Fire away. So one of the common issues that people have in business is the old, we're going with someone else. You get the email or the phone call and they've decided to take another option. So that's not easy. We all know what it's like in business. It's tough these days, especially with a recession looming, interest rates, inflation. It's tougher and tougher. The margins are getting shrunk. We all need more work coming through the door. And of course, the number one thing that we'll do when times get tough is we drop our prices to get the customers in, to get the cash flow coming in. but it's not profitable. It's a race to the bottom. So you end up with this funny situation where everyone is fighting everyone in this little combat zone here. There are always people in any industry, and I bet if you think about your industry, there's always people who seem to be operating outside that competition, that fight. They're the ones who seem to be making all the money. They've got all the customers, they've got all the vans on the road, or they've got, the 20 websites that they're working on at any one time. The best thing you can do in business is to get out of this fight and just go and join them, because it's lonely up there. They're probably up there wondering why no one else is joining them. So this is a great way of helping you join them. It can lead to, some pretty excellent luxuries, time, money, freedom, really just getting rid of those 40, 60, 80-hour work weeks that everyone's in, the cash flow run, all those things. So it also gives you the opportunity to get rid of the customers you don't want, get the staff on that you need so you can cut your hours, the 60-hour weeks, the rejection, all the stress of running a business, all the cutting of prices just to get new people through the door. That's what this is all about. And I've got a term which I've called sales lotto, which is, and this happens particularly in trades and contracting type businesses, where people will go out and they'll get 3 quotes from 3 different people, and actually they choose the cheapest one. And so this concept is about going from getting 1 job in every 3 to potentially getting as many as 2 jobs out of every 3 quotes. And it is doable. And it even works when you raise your prices. And that's the really cool bit, because you're not engaged in that race to the bottom to get the customers in the door. So as Frederick mentioned, I also have a manufacturing business. I started off as a copywriter. We ended up with this manufacturing business, which we're running and we're growing at the moment. And we produce splashbacks, which in the US you would know as backsplashes. They're basically nice panels, decorative panels that go behind your cooktop in your kitchen or your sink, in showers, laundries, other areas. It's a great product, but going back to sales, particularly to the DIY, which is the do-it-yourself market, was slow. We were closing about 20% of calls, and we were doing everything right. We were hitting Facebook, running Facebook ads and boosted posts and Google ads and calling people up to get sales in, even doing fax marketing. And going back in the day, we got customers through faxes. So we were doing everything. As I say, 1 in 5 jobs were closing. And the big mistake we realized was how we were telling people the price. Because we were great on the phone, we were great with everything else, but when we were giving people the price, it was typically, it's $1,200, and it was a phone call, or it was just a typed email with a number in it, or maybe even just like a text message on the phone. And that was causing a major problem, because if you look here, our lead generation was excellent. We're getting lots of inquiries. Our sales, so on the phone, was really good. We were engaging with customers. We were explaining everything about the product. The product itself is high quality. There's a lot of really good things that we could talk about the product. Customers were all delighted. Repeat business referrals were all coming through. But here in that red circle, where we were absolutely woeful, was how we were presenting the price, and it was like a 1 out of 10. So effectively, the wheels are falling off at this point. Because what happens in business is we go weak. We don't want to make that final push. It's almost as if we're a little bit embarrassed to tell people the price. It's almost like we're uncomfortable to talk about money. But of course, the issue is right there and then, at that moment, is when the customer is ready to make a decision. So they've got your price, they've got a couple of other prices. What are they going to do? They're going to shop on price. They're going to choose the lowest price. Whereas it's the worst time to pull back, because if you pull back, if you don't represent your entire business case for making the sale, you're just competing on price again. So no one really does what's necessary to make sure that the price is presented in the correct way. And that's why it's a big advantage to anyone, because if you do that, you'll be miles and miles and miles ahead. So something, and this is something that we were talking about just this morning, is that businesses think the only way to get more sales in is to increase the number of phone calls they're making, but basically put more time and energy into advertising. If I double my Facebook ad budget, I will get more sales in. And that's true. But essentially what you've got is you've got the old leaky bucket. What happens when you've got a leaky bucket? You've got two options. You can either pour more water into the bucket, knowing that a lot of it's just going to leak out, but you just keep pouring more and more and more water in there to keep it full, or you can plug the holes. And plugging the holes is basically, in this case, optimizing your sales process. So less customers get out. You're keeping more in there. You're increasing your prices, which is kind of like turning up the volume of the tap. You're increasing your prices. So optimizing your sales process is vital, because when you've optimized this, and I'll touch on this again a little bit later, but when you optimize your sales process, you don't need to spend as much money on advertising. So if you get 100 leads in and you close 10 sales, but you then take some steps to increase the 10 sales to 20 sales, you've doubled the number of sales and you haven't spent 1 more cent in advertising. It's also faster too, easier sales. Some of this stuff does the heavy lifting for you as well. So the priority is not increasing ad spend when you want to get more customers, but first, optimizing your sales process. Then if you want to grow, if you want to scale, if you want to increase your profits, if you want to cut back the number of hours you're doing in business potentially too, because each customer is worth more to you, then you can play around with your advertising. But optimizing is the name of the game. Because the simplest thing to do is increase your ad budget, which is why everyone does it, which is why you end up in that really competitive process with a whole bunch of customers that you don't want to be competing with. So as I say, our sales process was broken. People are shopping on price. And here's an example of the kind of quote that most companies send out, if they send out anything at all. So if you were to Google a quote format online, you will find heaps and heaps and heaps of these. And they're basically a technical document. Lots of company information, a scope of works in the middle, a broken down price, a total quote, some terms and conditions. That's it. Now that's fine, because what that is a mechanism for delivering a price. But we don't want to deliver the price. Our goal here is not to deliver a price, it's to get the sale. Which is why this quote format is not about delivering a price per se, because that's what the customers want. It's about doing what we want, which is getting the sale. So we throw everything at them right at that vital time. So there is a point in the sales process when the customer decides what they're going to do. Now, if they're looking at you as an option, depending on what business you're in, you might be the only person they've spoken to. But there could be 2 or 3 competitors that you're up against that you're up against. So they're going to get out that price and they're going to think, what am I getting for this price? What's the best option for me? So they'll either go price shopping, but really all they're doing is they're thinking about, what do I think I'm getting for the amount that I could be spending on this? So instead, we turn this whole thing into a brand new sales presentation. We hit them with all the benefits, everything they need to know to make a buying decision in your market. We answer all their questions again. We cover off all their objections again, and we give them an absolute abundance of proof, which gives them confidence that you are in fact the real deal. And so this is important, even if you've had a really great phone call with them, because often you'll have a phone call with them. You might send them some information by email, whatever you're doing in your sales process. However, that doesn't always work, because some customers get on and off the phone really fast, which means they may have forgotten to ask you an important question, or on that call, you may have forgotten to mention something, or maybe they got confused, or maybe they got you confused with another competitor, and that could happen. They may have asked a question, but they may have forgotten your answer, and that happens all the time. People will forget 80, 90% of what you told them within sort of 24, 48 hours. So if you're relying on having had a really good sales conversation with somebody and then remembering all these wonderful things that you do and the way that you go about what you do, by the time they go to make a decision, sorry, they've forgotten it. So you need to overcome that. So as Frederick said, I've also been writing sales copy for about 15 years, and I'll go through this quickly. But I've worked in all sorts of markets, from filling events to financial sales copy to a little bit of health and business opportunity stuff. All sorts of things, from quote writing to email marketing to advertorials, all sorts of things, and it's given me a very broad view of business and how to get results for people. So when we had this issue around only getting 20% of customers buying, I thought, okay, there's got to be a solution here that I can fix with my copywriting skills. So I had a look at everything that I'd done in the past, and I put together this thing called the Ultimate Quote Format. Now, we put this quote together for our splashback business, and it's 18 pages long. So you would have seen on the previous slide the one-page quote that people send out. But we've gone from 1 page to 18. And that's because it's no longer we're not just presenting the price, we are delivering a full sales presentation that the customer's got at that very moment when they're making the decision. So we sent the first one out and we got that job. Then the second one, we got that one, and we got the third one as well. Now, we didn't get every job. We looked at our results after about 2 or 3 months of doing this, and it was sitting at just slightly over 50%. Not everyone's going to become your customer. You don't want everyone as a customer. Some people can't afford you. That's the way it is. Some people are time wasters, they're too early in a project, they may change direction. That's the way it is. But, hell, it sure as hell beats 20%. So we're effectively getting 5 jobs where we used to only get 2. And that is hugely exciting, because this process, once you've got it, it's just as easy to use this as it is to send out a price in an email or give it over a phone.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt the flow, but I do want to interrupt and just kind of interject a question here.
Mm-hmm.
Can you lay out, and I'm sure you're probably going to do this later, but can you lay out some of the psychology around doing something longer? 18 pages versus 1 page is a tremendously drastic change, right? And most people would say people don't have the time to read 18 pages. But why do you think the counterintuitive truth is actually more effective and more productive?
Yeah, so there's a perception that people's attention spans have changed and people don't want to read anything anymore. And look, it's simply not true. People will sit through some of these movies that people are producing now are 3 hours long, as movies used to be an hour and a half. If you've got people's attention and you're talking about something which interests them, then they will engage with it. If you were to say to somebody, do you want to read an 18-page sales document? They'll say, no, sum it up in a paragraph. But the reality is, when people are trying to fix a problem, they want information about how to solve it. So when we buy a car, we check out the car, we watch videos on it, we read about it, we take it for a test drive, we talk about it. We put a lot of time and effort into that. Mm-hmm. So in our case, people want a beautiful addition to their home. And they are prepared to find out a lot of information about that when they're putting anything in their home, or they're getting work done, or they're getting a website done. Some of these things mean, pride in their home. Mm-hmm. Some of these things might mean potentially extra money in their business, how their business operates, like a website or a videographer or something like that. So when it's important for people They will pay attention and they will read. And we know people read this because people ask questions about it. We've got, our website is not a website with a few bits of information on it. There is tons and tons and tons of information, and people will spend literally an hour on there because they're interested. So you've got to be careful how you write it. You don't want it to be boring. You don't want it to be uninteresting. You don't want to waffle on. But if you cover all the key points and you get people's attention because you know what's important to them, then yes, they'll read it. Absolutely, they'll read it. And the proof of the pudding is in the eating in this case. It's the results speak for themselves. And of course, the perception that a lot of people in business have is that all people want is the price. If you ask a customer, what do you want? I just want the price. Just give me the price. We're all the same. Every time we buy something, we just want the price. But remember two things. Number one, this works. We've proven it. It works. Number two, giving people the price is not about really delivering the price for the customer. This is not about them. This is about us. This is about us getting the sale. That's what this is all about. It's not the customer getting the price. It's about us getting the sale. And it's a bit of a shift that you've got to make in your mind when you put this together. The customer may not have asked for this, but they're getting it. And I think in the 200, 300, 400, I'm not sure how many we've sent out, we've had, I think, 1, maybe 2 complaints that it was too long. And the other thing is, I'll explain, I'll go through this later. We bury the price in there, Frederick. We bury the price. We don't say the price is not on page 1. Price is like on page 5 or 6. We don't tell them where it is. We force them to read it. And that's part of the beauty of this. So I teamed up with Dan Sorkin, who, I'm sorry?
No, yes, go ahead.
Yep. So I teamed up with Dan, and I believe and I know Dan's presented on this masterclass before in a previous session. And Dan's a friend and colleague of mine, so we knew that this would be a huge benefit to people. And so I've teamed up with him to help get it out for those who actually want us to do it for them. And Dan, so I won't edify him, but he's brilliantly talented and very smart, and also not just good with words, but also good with business and being able to extract the information that you need from a business owner in order to be able to put something absolutely awesome together. So who can use this? Well, it's like this is applicable to just about any business. The only business I've been able to work out that really can't use it is a retail store where people are buying stuff off the shelf, because you just can't have a long document to sell every single item. But if you're in a trade, this is mega, mega, mega useful. So, and that's because people will go out and they will get 3 quotes and they will typically choose the cheapest one. Or sometimes they'll discard the cheapest one because they think there must be something wrong and they'll go for the middle one. It depends on how people do that process. But yeah, typically you're price shopping because people go get 3 quotes and choose the cheapest one, because all other things being equal, the cheapest one has got the biggest benefit to me, which is cost me less money. So professional services, perhaps choosing a new accountant or a financial planner or a website designer or someone like that, where they may not have to use you, where the choice is sticking with what they're doing now or doing nothing at all, or getting you. And if they've got a big, massive, ugly price, go, I'm not going to do that, it's too much. So you can overcome that by selling on value instead of selling on price. Manufacturing, like our business, we're up against cheaper products, and we can easily explain why our products are far more favorable than the cheaper products that people can get. Consultants in pretty much any field, and whether you're after a marketing consultant or a tax consultant or a business growth specialist, consultants typically do charge high hourly fees, and this allows you to justify those fees to make them look cheap instead of look expensive, or I shouldn't say cheap, but look good value. Then you've got your photographers and your designers and your graphic artists and basically anyone who needs to explain the value of what they bring. So pretty much anyone in business can be doing this, and I'll give you an example that we use in a couple of minutes too. So one of the issues that people have with delivering a price is most people in business are good at what they do, but they're not necessarily good at selling. So when people go to deliver the price, it's almost done apologetically. It's almost like they're embarrassed about it. So what this can do is this can help overcome it. When you deliver the price, this document does all the work for you. So if you're not good at sales, this does the work. If you're embarrassed or uncomfortable about talking about money and you know, it's we're in business, we're meant to be good at this, but we're not. This is a print version of you, essentially. So let's go into the ultimate quote format and I'll explain how to put it together, all the different sections that are in that 18-page document that we use that you can use to put your own one together, and some examples from ours that you can steal yourself. So, as I said before, where do people put their money in business? All sorts of places to advertise. So whether it's Facebook or newspaper, you know, yellow pages, people spend a lot of time doing networking and posting stuff on Facebook groups and social media groups for free to generate and drum up business. You know, people will educate themselves on how to be better at sales or how to do better websites, or they'll spend money on websites. What is all this for? This is for more money, more sales. And it's so they can scale their business. So as I was saying before, the secret to scaling a business is not about getting more leads. It's about making more sales, making better use of the sales that come in the door. So let's take a pest control business, for example. So let's say you run this business, Sage Pest Control. Now, typically in your business, you would get 12 inquiries. You'd run your typical, whatever you do for advertising, but let's say you get 12 inquiries in this week. You send out 12 quotes. People will go and get 3 quotes, so you get 4 jobs. Cool, they're the numbers. But let's say you want to expand. Let's say you want to increase your profits. Let's say you want to put a second van on the road. What are your options? Well, if you do this and you double the number of sales you get from each call, you send out 12 prices from the 12 inquiries that you get, but now instead of getting 4 jobs, you can get 8. And that's 100% more business. So if it's scaling that you're after, this is what I was talking about before, about the leaky bucket thing. This is plugging the holes in the bucket. This is not about doubling the advertising budget. This is about doubling the number of sales without having to spend 1 damn cent more on advertising. Just converting more of the people who come in the door into customers. So, do people buy on price? This is a big question we all get. And a lot of people think it's true, but it's not. So yes, people buy on price, but people buy on price when that's the only reason that you give them for buying. It's, you know, we're trained to buy on price. We're trained to buy the $8 item instead of the $12 item, because if the $8 item does the same thing as a $12 item, why wouldn't we buy the $8 item? But they only do that because we don't give them any other reasons to do that. And even if you, as I said before, even if you talk to them on the phone, have a really great sales call with them, by the time they come to make the buying decision, they're probably going to forget 80, 90% of everything they told you. So this is why we come up with an 18-page quote. It overcomes that issue of price shopping. We're not sending them a quote. We're trying to get the sale. Okay, and I've said this before, and I want to stress it again. Your quote is not about them. It's about you. Their goal is to get a price. Our job is to get a sale. That's what we're here for. So this is Australia. This is the Kia Picanto. They're probably sold in the US as well. As far as I know, it is the cheapest car that you can buy. I see them occasionally. This is our car. It's a Kia Carnival. Why have we got a Kia Carnival? There's triple the price, but it has more seats. Got a large family, more seats, better safety, fuel economy, warranty looks, all sorts of things led us to buy this car instead of a Kia Picanto. Hell, even if I didn't have lots of kids to put in the car, I still wouldn't buy a Kia Picanto. There'd be all sorts of other things around, comfort and style and performance that would lead me to want to buy a much better car. Now, if everyone bought on price, you'd pretty much see nothing but Kia Picantos on the road. But you don't. You see all these expensive cars on the road too. Audis, Mercedes, BMWs, Mustangs. So if you ever want proof that people don't always buy on price, look around, look at the cars on the road, look at the houses people buy, look at the clothes people wear, the food they eat, where they eat. There's this concept of people buying on price is something you just got to get out of your heads, guys. So we want to take the focus off price. We do this by controlling the conversation. We also, as part of this process, we're educating people on how to buy. So in the pest controller example, how do you choose a good pest controller? People don't know. So we educate them on that. And we become the expert. And that's really important. People trust us. And we take the conversation off price and onto our territory where we're the expert. So if there is one good reason that I can give you for why people buy, it's the fear of looking stupid. This is how people make decisions ultimately. So no one wants to be embarrassed. No one wants to be left looking stupid by making a bad buying decision. So we give them the confidence to choose us. Because if all you're doing is competing on price, then if it goes wrong, then people will say, well, why did you choose the most expensive one? Could have just chosen the cheapest one. Same result. So we give them confidence not to buy on price, but to buy on all sorts of other factors. So we talked, Frederick, a little bit earlier about why have a long sales presentation, why have an 18-page or however long everyone's documents become once you do this. Here is a great example. So Schlitz Beer was a beer company back in, it was probably 80, 90 years ago, maybe 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they got, who was it? I think it was Claude Hopkins. It was one of the well-known copywriters at the time to come in and help advertise their beer.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, they were sort of ranked 6th or 7th in the market. So he went around the factory and he looked at everything and he saw the 7-step sterilization process for the beer bottles. And he saw that even though they were on the edges of the Great Lakes, they didn't get water from the Great Lakes. They bored down 20,000 feet to get the freshest of the freshest of water for the beer.
Mm.
And the yeast, the mother yeast cell that they used was the process of something like 10,000 experiments to absolutely optimize, and everything was crafted from this original yeast cell that they've got. I don't really understand the beer process. So instead of saying, like everyone else, buy Schlitz beer, he wrote a series of ads which explained all of this to people.
Mm-hmm.
The result was they went within sort of 12 to 18 months, they went to #1 in the market.
Mm-hmm.
It was an astonishing result, but it was all the result of being very specific, not treating the customer like an idiot, and explaining everything that they did and why the beer was so pure and so fresh and so good. You can say, hey, well, it's fresh and it's pure and it tastes great, but everyone says that. But they explain it. And then people will actually connect the freshness of the water and the yeast and the purity of the bottles. They'll connect that to the taste.
Right.
But they will know that you guys are the real deal when you explain everything that you do and why you're the best. And I'll explain in a second that even if you do the same as all your competitors, it doesn't actually matter. You can still use this process and get the same result. So yeah, as I say, the more you sell, the more you sell. Interestingly, when this guy was doing the tour of the factory, He said, you guys have got to tell your customers about this. You've got to let everybody know about this. And they just looked at him as if he was stupid and said, well, all brewers do this. We all do the same thing. Yeah, but just because you might know that, your customers don't know that. So if you're in pest control, you might use the same chemicals as everybody else. You might have the same process as everybody else. But you're not competing, you're not selling to other pest controllers, you're selling to customers who have absolutely no idea about what you do.
Right. Right.
So you've just got to get that information in front of them. So one of the nice things about this process is we're educating people. And when you educate people, you build trust. And we'll talk towards the end too about other ways you can repurpose the kind of document that you put together here. But by educating people, you become the trusted advisor, and people will gravitate to the customer, to the trusted advisor. You're helping them make the right decision. You're warning them about some of the pitfalls that they'll fall into by making a bad mistake, and you give them a lot of confidence. So as we were saying before, by the time they look at your price, they will have forgotten most of everything you told them. So here is how we put this together. So there's a number of different sections in here, and I'll give you some examples of our quote format. So section 1 is the introduction. Relatively straightforward. 1 page is just thanking them for their time, giving them some information about what they're getting. So you're saying, you're going through all the different sections. So basically, you're going to be in this document, you're going to discover this, and this. So it'll be, like the benefits. We'll answer some frequently asked questions. We will tell you some of the mistakes that people make. You'll get the sections as we go through. And of course, you give them your contact information. You don't give them the price at this point. Give them the contact information, nice and clear, so it's easy for them to be able to call you, text you, email you, whatever your preferred method of communication is. Mm-hmm. Now we're really getting into the meat of it. So section 2 is X number of reasons to use you. Now, to put this together, you've got to spend a bit of time thinking, okay? The best results you're going to get from this is by sitting down, thinking it out, and thinking a little bit outside the box. Potentially even talking to some of your customers, remembering some of the conversations you've had with them, looking at perhaps questions that people have emailed you, asked you maybe over the next couple of weeks, making some notes on the kind of conversations you have and the questions that people ask, and trying to get a feel for what's important to them. But you want to start by making a list of everything about your product or service. Now, as I said a moment ago, these don't necessarily need to be the things that make you unique. So if you are a plumber, for example, there may be a specific type of pipe that you use, and I'm not a plumber, I don't really know this kind of stuff. But I did look it up a couple of weeks ago just to try and get a bit of a feel for it. But there are standard pipes that people use for different purposes, and it could be that the one that you use is the standard one, happens to be earthquake resistant. It's a certain thickness, it's made of a certain material that keeps the water fresh, doesn't leach chemicals, it won't be affected by ground movement, things like that. It'll be the same, whether you're an electrician or a website designer, the tools that you use to manage the content on someone's website, to secure the website. Now, all plumbers are probably using the same pipes. The electricians are all using the same types of cables. The website developer is using the same platform and the same tools. Mm-hmm. But remember, while you know this and your competitors know this, your customer doesn't. So you can make a feature out of something that everyone does, but no one's telling the customer about it. So as there's a saying, which is, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. Your customers are blind. You're the one-eyed man. You may not have perfect eyesight, but you know more than them. So the fact you know more than them is a massive advantage. Mm-hmm. So here's an example. We've got 10 reasons, and I'll show you all 10 reasons in a minute. So it's very simple, right up. It's just a few short paragraphs. Reason 1, significant cost savings over glass, and it won't break like glass can. So acrylic is a different material to glass. And we talk about it. So, they're 30% cheaper, gives the same look, easy to install, half the weight, it's adjustable on site, stronger. We just describe it.
One thing that I noticed on this, right, and maybe you could speak to this, is actually creating features out of things that the customer didn't even know to think about. So the last piece right here, that they're 25% stronger than glass, so they will not shatter, explode like glass splashbacks can. Now, nobody that I know of has ever thought that their flashback or their backsplash, as we say here in America, is going to explode on them. But suddenly, by telling people that it's so much safer, you actually create this fear of their splashback or their backsplash that they didn't even know they had before, right? Wait a minute, you just think it explode? Totally. So that's crazy, because people have a primary, their primary thought may not be safety, but now you've created an extra feature and an extra benefit that they didn't even think about or think to think about, just by explaining an aspect of a feature of the product that you have already. So that's just something that occurred to me in the moment. So
no, and it's a really good point, because as I said, you've got to write down all the benefits. Something like that doesn't always come up in a sales call when you're talking to someone. It's not something that would occur to you necessarily to tell the customer. So on a call, you might cover 5 of these things, but you're right, that's something that the customer will never even think about, and it puts that thought in their mind that maybe other products don't do it as well. Now, I'm not saying you should say if you're competing against other acrylic splashbacks, for example, you shouldn't necessarily say our product is the only one if it's not. But just putting that in there, now people are thinking, well, what about the other ones? So this is where you can use this format to get incredible mileage out of something that you do, which everyone else does, but you'll get to take advantage of it and they won't.
And no one else is talking about this. You could say that. No one else is talking about this. You wonder why.
Exactly. So maybe you are the only one. I'm not claiming we are. I've not said we are. I'm just telling you what we do. And of course, all our competitors are perfectly free to go and tell people that as well. They are perfectly free to put this document together. If they want to put it together, they can do it for themselves, but they won't. But that's not our problem. Our job's getting the sale.
Right.
So here are some of the other reasons that we use. So in our case, it's not all about the product. So if you look at reasons 1, 2, 3 about the physical product, then there's another 2 which are about the use of the product. Then we go into some of the other features around color availability, the warranty, and then ongoing use, like easy to clean and unmatched levels of service. So all the reasons can jump around and vary a lot. Like I say, they're not all about the physical product themselves, about all sorts of things that you do with your product, but also the benefits of the product when you buy it, when you install it, when you use it, and some of the softer features around warranty and service. So it just, when you put this together, guys, expand your thinking beyond the here and now, the actual physical product or the service that you deliver as you're delivering it, and into the future as well. And look at things like warranty. Now, warranty is a really cool one because by law, and I don't know what warranty services are, warranty law is in the US, but by law, you have to provide a warranty. If the product fails, if there's a problem with it, you've got to provide that warranty. So you may as well make a feature of it. That's what we've done. Our warranty does go a little bit further than the standard 7-year warranty that you would have on product faults, because it's 10 years. But so we've now gone another 3 years into the future, and we can say it's an unmatched warranty because it is unmatched. No one else does a 10-year warranty. But even if it's the standard warranty, you can make a feature out of the warranty that you are forced to supply by law. Simple. And again, wonder what the warranty is on other products. People don't know. You got to do it legally. Bingo. You benefit. Okay. So as I was just, before I go on, as I was saying, and I can't stress this enough, include all the things that you do, which are unique to you, and include all the things that you do, which are standard across your industry, because you'll be the only one saying it and people won't know that everyone does it. Okay, so section 2, include items that everyone does. So this could be part of section 1. So the electrician, the type of cable, if you're an electrician. If you're a videographer, Dad and I did a few of these for videographers. And one of the things that we loved putting in there was how much the equipment costs. Because if you have got $30,000, $40,000 worth of equipment at your disposal, like that's impressive. And yet all the videographers we spoke to had $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 worth of equipment. They had these incredible computer setups where the data was brought back in 2 different ways from the video shoot, and one gets loaded onto these redundant computers, another one gets put up into the cloud and backed up or whatever. They all do it because they need to make sure the data doesn't get lost. However, you can make a feature of that even though it's the same as everyone else. Some things like accountancy, I'm not quite sure how you would position yourself differently, but maybe the software, maybe the process, maybe the relationships you have with the tax office or the IRS could be something that you can talk about. Again, you've all probably got the same relationships, but make them a feature. If you work on the tools, it can be the tools that you use. Again, maybe the value of the tools that you use, or anything unique about them, or I don't know. But there's all sorts of stuff that you'll do in your industry which aren't impressive to your colleagues or your competitors, but impress the pants off your customers.
Mm-hmm.
So here we present the price. So as I said, we don't tell people where the price is. We don't put the price in the email. We don't say, hey, you'll find the price on page 5. Because as soon as you do that, it's game over. Big mistake.
Mm-hmm.
We hide the price in here, so they've got to go through and read all those reasons before they get to the price. Now, with the price, you be specific, and here's just a few little copywriting hints as well. Being specific is better than being general. So you would say $1,218.82, not $1,200. It just implies that you've really understood them and that you've absolutely optimized that price. And because it's so specific, they're not going to come back and argue. $1,200 sounds like a bit of a ballpark, bit of a rough. It's a bit sort of dodge if you get what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Break the price down again from a specificity point of view, just like having that very specific number. If it's here's the product, here's the delivery, here's the tax, here's whatever, any design fees, anything like that. You can do this if you're a website designer, if you're an accountant, financial planner. Here's what you get for your money. Again, it makes it very clear what people are getting. Just another little way of reminding them. Also, make it stand out. Because the last thing you want to do is be all embarrassed and standoffish, I guess, for want of a better word, about the price. Make it clear. Be proud of your price. There's nothing to be ashamed of. They're going to find it anyway. And if you try and hide it in a little font, it doesn't look good. It almost makes it look like you're embarrassed about it, and you're trying to downplay it because it's high. So make it stand out. Be bold about it. Don't hide it. As I said before, don't ever tell people where it is. Make them go and find it.
Mm-hmm.
So section 4 are the common mistakes. So common mistakes are common mistakes people make in your industry. So common mistakes people make choosing a pest controller. Common mistakes people make choosing an accountant. Common mistakes people make when choosing a splashback. So this section, in a lot of ways, will rehash that second section 2. The X number of reasons to use you. because what we're doing is we're presenting the information in a different way. Some people will really like the positive of reasons to use. Some people are sort of more negative focused, and so they will focus on common mistakes. You also now in their corner by telling them common mistakes that people make. You're a trusted advisor and you're teaching them. So you're building up your credibility because you know so much more about your industry than anyone else, and you're sharing that knowledge. So it builds credibility and it builds trust. So as I was saying before, and I'll reiterate this, don't say anything which isn't true. So when you're talking about common mistakes people make, if you are a pest controller, don't say people will use, carcinogenic chemicals if they don't do that anymore. So don't say anything that's not true. Don't claim that you are the only one to use that type of treatment if you are not. Just telling them that you use them is enough, because they will then question whether the others use it anyway. So sure, you can sow the seeds of doubt by simply presenting what you do, but stick to the facts. As I said before, your competitors can make the exact same claims. They can put together this kind of document, but they won't, because no one is doing this. So, for example, in our quote format, one of the mistakes is picking a product based on price alone. Now, that's really good, because if you're higher than your competitors, which you should be, you can use this as another way of tackling that price objection and tackling it very clearly and very specifically. So what are the issues that people have or could run up against if they choose the cheapest price? And it could be the potential for low quality materials, that they'll rush through your job, that they won't, if they're a pest controller, they won't get into every single section of the house, but you don't say that. You say picking a product based on price alone is a mistake, because when you choose a product that you want to choose a pest controller who prices in the correct amount of time to get into every single nook and cranny, into your attic, into your base, or wherever, under all the furniture, you can say that. And you'll see a couple of other mistakes there. So what we do here is we invalidate other options that people have, inferior options. So again, you can actually take a lot of the information that you've covered in section 2 and rework it for this as well. And then we can go on to section 5, which are frequently asked questions. Again, we're taking all those benefits that you do up front, looking at your list of reasons for people to choose you, which, as I said before, are all the things that you do which are unique, all the things you offer, all the benefits that people get going forward with the use of the product or service, warranty, some of the softer things like ongoing support, and so on, warranty, etc. We're retelling that again in a different way, just to rehash and reiterate it, so that there'll be a way that because people will basically respond to different things. So people, if you can explain it as a frequently asked question, maybe they didn't get it before, they see it again, bing, they get it. So there's 2 reasons for frequently asked questions. And one is, of course, to answer, frequently asked questions, but also unanswered questions. So when you're on a call, there may be a question that people typically ask, but they don't ask. And maybe for whatever reason, that call didn't go as you planned. Maybe it was rushed. Maybe they had to get off the phone. So you get the opportunity to cover off all those questions that people have, but may not have asked. Or, as I say, they will forget most of what you told them. It also means you can answer, if they get to the buying decision point of the process, you can answer that question for them that they may have forgotten, or they may simply have never asked. And they probably won't come back and ask it at that point. So you've got to take the opportunity. You've got to seize that chance. So again, here's why you answer those as frequently asked questions. The other reason for frequently asked questions is you can tackle objections. So objections are quite often things that people ask, but they're often things that people don't ask because they make an assumption. So what are the reasons, the underlying reasons that people have for not choosing you or your product or your service? So you can take objections, and you would know this from the kind of conversations you have with people, particularly when you talk to them on the phone or in person. What's going on? Why didn't they go ahead? What are the reasons? Was it, was it price? Was it they weren't confident? Was it that someone else talked them out of it? Is there a perception in the media about what you do or something like that? Do they think that, if you're a roofer, do they think that what you do is perhaps an unnecessary cost, whereas it's not, because you can stop leaks and things like that? What are some of those underlying objections that people have for not buying? And you can turn them into frequently asked questions. So it's a really cool way of tackling objections, but just by handling them as frequently asked questions. So here's some of the questions that people may ask us or may not ask us. So can these type of splashback scratch? We don't often get asked that question, but it is a bit of a hang up, we know, for people. So we answer that question even though it's an objection, we tackle it under the guise of a frequently asked question. And then you've got some of the questions that people have around whether it can be installed behind a cooktop, heat, how long it takes to deliver the product. Again, it's an opportunity to reiterate questions around lead time. So you would be surprised if you look at all the benefits that you have, how you can turn them into mistakes, into content for the mistakes people make, and then how you can then repurpose them as frequently asked questions. Again, you get that big list of all the things that you want to tell them, then tell it in a different way in all of these different sections. Now, this is one of my favorite sections. Prove it. So you never really want to make your claims bigger than your proof. So if you're claiming to be the biggest, the best, and have a wonderful product, prove it. And I bet people have got all sorts of proof elements they could roll out but never do. And so, like I said, so one of the biggest fears that people have is to look stupid. So how do you get around that? You prove that you're the real deal. You don't just tell them, we're wonderful, we're great. Hey, look, have a look at the proof. All these people can't be wrong. So there's some really good ways of doing that. Testimonials. So we get a lot of we get a few testimonials sent to us, but we get a lot of our testimonials off Google reviews because that's effectively what they are. You can, if people have sent you a video testimonial, you can repurpose that as a written testimonial. If you've got videos, this is a digital document. You could potentially embed videos into this as well. But Google reviews are a great one. Turn your Google reviews on. We're always following people up. Could you please leave us a Google review once we do the post-sale follow-up? And we've got, I think it's just edging on 200 5-star Google reviews now. So we've got, I think it was something like 10 testimonials in our proposals that go out. I would ideally, when I get around to it, I will probably extend that to 20 or 30 or more. And it's a digital document. It doesn't cost you any more to send out 5, 6, 7 pages of testimonials as it does to send out one. The power of that, of course, is if people are looking through a document and they see 1 or 2 testimonials, that's nice. But if they see 5, 6, 7 pages of it, they're not going to read them all, but they'll flip through and they may pick out one or may pick out a couple and they'll read them just to give themselves the confidence that you're not just filling it up with space, but they are in fact very positive Google reviews or testimonials.
Right.
So the more the merrier, the more proof you can provide, the more confidence you give people, and the more likely you are to close the sale. So as I said, we're going to extend our testimonial section in our quote format. Never do this. That is, make them up. Never make them up. All sorts of reasons you don't want to do that. If you start getting fake Google reviews, Google will give you a slap. Also, people can smell a fake review a mile off, because it's always written by the person who wants the review, and they all start sounding the same. I know of customers who I suspect are doing this, and they've got lots of reviews, and they all sound the same. The other thing is, calm as a bitch, and if you make up testimonials and make up fake proof elements, then calm as a bitch, and you'll get what you deserve. So don't make them up. Get people to send them in. If you haven't got lots of reviews and lots of testimonials, start asking now. Turn your Google reviews on. In your post-sale process, just say, can you please send me a Google review, give people some instructions. I don't have the tool on me, but there are ways that you can get a URL which you can send people. They click on it. It brings up the box for people to leave a Google review on your business. So it's really, really easy. So, if you hunt around the internet, there'll be a few tools that make that for free for you. Go get them. Go get them. Yeah, even talk to some of the customers that you've done work with in the past and start putting these in your quote format.
Let me ask you a question, Hugh.
Yep.
For those who have a newer business, maybe they don't have 5 or 6 pages of testimonials yet. What are some ways that they can use? What are some ways they can position themselves, even with testimonials or proof, to prove that they're good? I have a couple of thoughts, but I want to hear what your thoughts are.
Yeah. Finally, you should ask. So if you don't have testimonials, case studies are good. So you can pick, if you've just done a few jobs, you can use the results of those jobs to turn into case studies. And the before and after example is ideal. So we were having this problem, our house was overrun with cockroaches. We couldn't get rid of them. We did everything we could. We got in ace exterminators, and now we haven't seen a cockroach for 6 months. That kind of thing. We do longer case studies for commercial jobs. But yeah, look, simple case studies like that are excellent. The other thing you do is you just go and ask. So yeah, new business, it's tough. If you haven't got them, you haven't got them. If you've got nothing, you've got nothing to go yet. Start asking, and as soon as you get one, stick it in. So this is really just a Word document that we save as a PDF. When we send it, we edit it as a Word document and we send it out. So every time you get one, you can put one in there and it becomes the new master document. You might have one. Well, if you start asking by the end of the week, you might have 2 or 3.
Right.
Put them straight in, save it, use it. Then the next week, you might have 4. Put it in, save it, start using it. So just build them up over time. Now, did you have some other ideas as well?
Yeah, I had a couple of them. First of all, I think those are really great because you have to start and you want to be cognizant of building that process. Another thing that you can do, so for instance, sometimes a character reference is as good as a testimonial because if you're new, then people, I don't, this business is new, but I have a lot of people that vouch for me. And so what I did when I first started coaching several years ago was I was always putting content out, things like that. So I just asked people, I say, hey, if you've ever seen any of my writing or my content or anything that's been helpful for you, drop a comment below and let people know what you thought of it. Was it helpful for you? And so I got dozens and dozens of those that I could use and I could point people to that page. Another thing you can do is take a weakness and turn it into a strength, right? So use that as part of your story. And you can say, we were looking at the landscape of the industry and we saw there was a lot that was missing. And so that's why we put together this document to really show people what we were out to create. And you see this with a lot of startups that come into the space now. People are actually a lot more open to working with a newer company because they are being educated on what was missing. Right. And so if they're jaded on the entire industry and they don't really know where to go, something that's shiny and new can be more appealing. So even if you don't have the track record, you just talking about all the things that you see, all the things that are out there and you're educating people actually helps to build up that trust and that credibility. And then you can go and build out those case studies and those, and the last thing I would say is that you can offer a case study, offer to have people be a case study, right, at a discounted rate. We're building this up. And so we would love for you to be a case study so we can brag about you and share these things with you. I learned this from Chad and Holly, a couple of my coaches. And you use that as a way because people want to feel like they're a part of something too. And so depending on what your audience is like, you may be able to have somebody who's willing to be bragged. It's a way of almost promoting their business as well because you worked with them. So there's a couple of different ways. I think a lot of people can be hesitant because they feel like if I don't have 3,000 reviews and a whole bunch of testimonials that I'm at a disadvantage. And I think that positioning this, using this format, as you said, but also positioning yourself as, hey, we're the new kid on the block, but there's a reason why we're new. We moved on this block because we really wanted to be an ally for you because we looked at everybody that was here and we felt like there weren't enough people that were sticking up for you. It's not even calling out your competitors. Well, it's kind of a backhanded call out by saying, we're not saying that there's anything wrong with them, but we felt like there was something that missing that we could add to the picture. And this is why we're here. So that's just a couple of thoughts I had.
Yeah, I think great actually, and of course you can also talk about your past experience as well, so the results you've had in other businesses. But look, like you say, if you're a new pest controller, and I'll pick on pest because I use pest control in this document. It could be that you don't have lots of case studies and you don't have lots of testimonials to put in here, but in the benefits, one of the benefit is, we do things that no one else does. And then when you write that up, it's like, we saw all the problems in the industry. We saw how shoddy some operators were. We heard all the horror stories. And so we developed a process that guarantees that none of these things happen. And we do boom, boom, boom. This is what we do. So you're right. If you don't have proof elements, it's not ideal, but this document is a combination. But there's so many elements in this quote format that if you have a weakness in one area, you can overcome it with another one. And it comes back to what we were talking about before. That, you've really got to think of when you put this together that the success really comes from having this format and using it and just getting the damn thing out there, but also the quality of the thinking that you do when you put it together. And you've just set my mind going in all sorts of new directions on things that people can do. Because that whole what you were talking about really would be great in mistakes people make. One of the mistakes is choosing the guy that's been around for 50 years. Well, yeah, that's great, but 50 years they're going to be pretty not overconfident, but a lot of the same things over and over again. They're not going to look for new places that bugs can hide. They've come up with a process they think is good to get out of your house as quick as they can. So the whole notion of when you actually overcomes that, doesn't it?
I like how who was it? Hertz was the number one rental car agent for years, but was it Avis? I think Avis was.
Avis.
They said we're number two, so we try harder, right? So they used the fact that they weren't number one as a way of kind of throwing rocks. Like this company right here just takes you for granted because they're number one. Well, we're number two, so we try harder. And they went right at the heart of something that people feel. They feel overlooked by bigger companies sometimes. Like I'm just a number. And so when you have that, people, I think in the framework of this format, the ultimate quote format, the fact that you're going the extra mile, that you're sending them a 20-page proposal with all the information is case in point, right? You can use that document as a way to illustrate, hey, we're going to try harder because we want to show you all of your options as a way to help you make the right decision, right? So I love that perspective right there. So I think that's something that can be really helpful for people. It's at the end of the day, you want people to understand that when you're running your business, all the options are on the table. And that if you simply are willing to think deeper, like, and what I love about this process, for instance, is that you're actually asking people to go into their business and look at all the different ways that they can help their clients and customers, right? And to be thoroughly versed on that, and then to go out and share that story with your potential clients and customers. Because one of the things I love that you say is that we know these things, but our customers don't. And we just expect that the customer is going to pick us based on the fact of what we know, but we haven't told them what they should know in order for them to pick us. So, yeah, so I love, that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on, is because I love the fact that this really unpacks this and that unpacks this whole thought process, and it is applicable to any sort of business that you've kind of been illustrating here, whether it's a pest control or accounting company or whatever. It's applicable because that process of people making decisions applies no matter what kind of business you're in. If you're grocery shopping, if you are picking a pest control company, if you're picking a copywriter, there's a sea of options out there. And so you want to help the cream rise to the top. So why not be the one that actually helps them to stir the cream, right?
Yeah, and it's a really good perspective on it too. And again, it comes back to, a lot of it comes back to the conversations you have with people. Just thinking about what you say when people respond. So you may be on a conversation with someone and you start talking about, hey, look, we're new, but this is what we've seen, and so this is what we're doing it, and people respond to it, and you go, hey, I should get that in this sales document too. And other places, and I'll touch on that in a second too. So yeah, proof elements, photos as well. So this is another good one. So if you're new, once you've started to do a few jobs, you can take photographs. So take photos as you do it. You know, take photos of your van, your setup. Take photos of you in all your protective gear, the kind of equipment that you use to keep people's homes clean. If you're pest control, you can have 100 photos of all the different bugs that you kill, for example, in a description or whatever. If you're an accountant, it gets harder, but maybe photos of your staff, your team, and bios on them. Again, proof element of we've got the best team. And you're telling people, instead of just having them assume that you've got a good team behind you, you're telling them. A photo of your boardroom or your meeting room, which presents you as a slick, professional operator. Key stats in your industry, tax return numbers, things like that, how much you get back for people. They're all proof elements that you can use. Again, they may be meaningless in your industry, but they mean a lot to your customer. We got photos in ours, and here are just some of the photos that we've got. I've got the PowerPoint presentation that I've put together for this shared. I wonder if I can stop sharing and bring up one of the actual quotes, just to really quickly flip through it as well to show people what's in there. I'll do that at the end. We'll see if we can get that to work.
Okay.
So what you'll have at the end of this process is a whole bunch of things. You'll have all the different sections. You'll have a whole bunch of benefits. Like I say, things about not just the product that you sell or the service that you provide, but some of the after service and the warranty, all these kinds of things. You can repurpose this for other things like website content. Once you've got this, you're halfway to putting together a lead gen. I'm sure that you've spoken about lead gen before, Frederick. Having something on your website or something that you can give out that gets people educated and gets people interested and gets them to understand what you do. Essentially, this quote format has got a lot of the elements that you would have in a free report, which is effectively a sales letter. So you can repurpose. Once you put the thought into this, you can repurpose that and generate leads as a free report for content on your website. Follow-up emails, regular emails that go out. You could take one of the frequently asked questions and write an email about it, turn that into a blog. take another one of the frequently asked questions, turn that into an email, turn that into a blog. One of the benefits,
let me ask you.
Email, blog, you can generate tons of content from this process as well.
So I like, and what you're saying here, right? The free report. So basically, you could turn it into a lead magnet. You could turn your proposal into a lead magnet by simply saying, "Hey, we'll give you a free report," because all the information is in the proposal anyway. And so you can ask people. You got them contacted, and they've downloaded the free report. Now you can just follow up with them and say, "Have you had a chance to read this? Have you had a chance to check it out? Did you have any questions?" Anything like that. It turns into a sales call potentially because they've already got all the information. You know they're interested because they downloaded the report, right?
Yep.
That kind of stuck out for me. That's good.
Yeah. So the format would be a little bit different because this format is really around presenting the price. But you might have 8 reasons to use you. So your free report could be 8 questions to ask before you choose a pest controller, for example.
That's good.
Or before you hire an electrician, or before you hire an accountant, or read this before choosing an accountant, and then just repurpose the whole thing. But you've got all those things in there. You know what resonates with people. You've done that work. So yeah, it can be repurposed for any number of things. So, and that's something that I don't normally discuss on presentation, but I did want to bring it up for you guys today. Are just different ways that once you've done this work, it's not just a standalone document. It can actually become the centerpiece of all the marketing that then goes on with your business.
Right.
Because when Dan and I do projects like this, we'll often come up with perhaps like a unique selling proposition or some sort of a key selling message. But off that will be hanging various elements which support that. So and I'll keep picking on pest controllers, but in the pest controller case, it can be the process that you use, the chemicals that you use, how you dress when you go into people's homes so you don't leave it in a mess, and how you clean it up. The fact that you kill 100 different types of bugs, and some products only kill 80 bugs. You've got all these things which support that key selling concept. So once you've identified them, you've got the content that you need to write the ultimate quote format. You've also got the content to put on your website. You've got the content for the free report. You've got the content that you can send out in emails, blogs, whatever. So this process shouldn't just for you. This process shouldn't end at the quote. You can do it right. You can spread it out into all sorts of parts of your business. So the one more thing that I wanted to talk about too was the follow-up. So part of our success comes from this quote format, but some of it comes from the follow-up as well. So a study by Brevet showed that 80% of sales require an average of 4 to 5 follow-ups in order to close a deal. People have different you read different numbers about this. Some people say it might be 6 or 7. Some people say 3 or 4. But essentially, the message is don't make that first phone call unless you're prepared to make the 5th one or the 5th contact. So follow up people by email once they get the quote. Send them an email in a day, in 2 days' time. 44% of sales reps follow up only once, and then they give up. So once we've spoken to a DIY client, we've got a Google sheet like this. And you can't see all the details in there. It's a bit small, but essentially every single quote that goes out gets listed in a Google sheet. And it's very simple. The date it was sent out, the next follow-up date, who it is, their phone number, email address, all that kind of stuff, and some notes. If you ring up a customer and say, we're not ready, we'll be ready to look at it again in a couple of weeks, we change the follow-up date. We've got a virtual assistant who goes in here every day and looks for all the follow-up dates which are now current, and you'll see one that's highlighted in yellow and highlights it in yellow for us. So first thing we do in the morning is we go in here, we see what follow-ups we've got to do today, and we go and do them. When we put a new entry in here, and of course people can do this any way they want, but when we put a new entry in here, we have a follow-up date automatically 2 days from today. So automatically 2 days after we send out a quote, we follow them up. Even people who don't provide enough information for a quote, we still follow them up as well. People just say, I just want some basic information. I don't have sizes. I don't have enough information to give you a quote yet. They still go in here and we still follow them up because we know the benefit of going back. And, we have people who, we're doing a job now for someone who first came into our environment like 3 or 4 months ago. And we have some people who are 6 months after they make that initial contact before they actually buy. And we follow them up. A couple of days later, a week, maybe we follow them up in a month after that. If they're going cold, maybe if they've been on here for 6 months, then we take them off. But the number of people who come back months down the track, it's a lot. And something else I should point out now that I think about it is people will pressure you for a price on the phone, and don't give it to them. Don't fall into that pressure, because people who, and this is aside from follow-up, people who push for price there and then are full on price shopping. And unless you are the cheapest, they won't go with you anyway.
Right.
So don't play their game. Give them the format anyway, because some people are just price sensitive and that's all they care about. But a lot of people have just been educated to play the price game because that's all we've ever been taught. Sorry about that. That's all we've been taught. Right. So we will always play the price game when we phone up people. But as business owners, we don't want to fall into that trap. We want to push people through this process. That's our process. Remember, this is not about delivering a price. And I'll say it again, not about delivering a price. This is about us getting the sale. This is about us. It's not about them.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really, really good. One of the things that I often tell people, entrepreneurs, is that, sales is leadership. And the definition of sales that I learned from my coach, one of my coaches, is that, sales is a series of questions designed to lead a person to a point of a decision, right? The decision is, either they're going to go with us or they're going to go with someone else. But if you are helping them to reach that decision, you are educating them, you are empowering them to make a decision. It's actually disempowering to just give them the price, because that's not what they need. That's not the most important thing, because the value of what they're buying is always going to be worth more than what they pay for it.
Yep.
So if I give in to that, I'm allowing them to be the leader and I'm not being a leader. And then it's almost an integrity issue. You can't say that you want to be the leader in a category and then you refuse to be a leader in every sales conversation that you have. And so holding sacred, so to speak, what you are bringing to the table, holding sacred what you are doing. Think of yourself as an artist. And so you're not just selling whatever you create. It could be a song, it could be a painting, it could be splashbacks or backsplashes. Whatever you are crafting and putting into the world, you are doing it to create an improvement and empower people in their lives. And if you're not stepping into that, if you're not leaning into that, fully embodying that, then you are doing a disservice to people. You're becoming like everybody else. And if you compromise on that, you'll compromise on everything, on anything. Because now what you're saying is, I just want to get the business. I want to please you rather than educating you and empowering you.
Yeah. And if you could embody everything that the ultimate quote format is about, it's what you just said. It really is. And all we're doing is we're taking that philosophy and we're putting it in writing as part of the sales process. But yeah, people will trust. People will want to do business with people they like and trust. And by taking leadership, you own that position. You absolutely own that position.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, it's true. And we also have a moral obligation to sell people what we have. So as a copywriter, I believe I am excellent at what I do, and Dan is excellent at what he does. So I don't want people to go to someone who's not going to give them the best outcome.
Right.
If someone's after a splashback, we know that the product that we have is the best that you can buy. So we have a moral obligation to make sure that they don't go down the path of an inferior product. And if you don't genuinely believe that, sales is going to be hard anyway if you don't own it.
Right.
And if you don't own that position, then it's probably time to go back and rework what you have, what you offer. So you are the best. But we have a moral obligation to make sure that people are using us.
Right.
Because we're going to give them the best outcome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that.
Yep. So that's the end of what I wanted to cover today. You can send me an email and you can get in touch with me. You can find me on Facebook or whatever. But that's probably the best email to get me on. Now, if people want to have a chat 15, 20 minutes with Dan or myself to go through your business and come up with some ideas for people who have been on this call, I'm happy to do that. Now, if I put a link, I've got a link somewhere, so let me bring that up. If I put a link into the chat, I wonder if that's going to show. So let me.
And while you're doing that, first of all, I want to thank you as you get to the end of the presentation. Hugh gave us almost 90 minutes of an in-depth dive into this ultimate quote process. I think I interrupted and added probably another 15 minutes through my questions and comments, but I would really want to salute you and thank you for that as well.
That's perfect. I love talking about this anyway, as you can tell. Because it's
awesome.
And people don't get it. Once they get it, it's like, oh yeah, this is how I can get a leg up on my competitors really easily.
I think you put this in the private chat. I'm gonna put this in the regular chat here. No worries. I'm also recognizing that StreamYard is sending this to YouTube and not to Facebook groups. I'm glad I simultaneously did this. So it'll be available for a short time on YouTube, but it's also available in the group as well. For those of you who are still on, who have joined later, or you've been on the whole time, if you have a question for Hugh, now is the time you can ask that. I want to respect his time because he's got a work day to finish going through as well, but he's given us this amount of time and wealth and knowledge. So if you have a question, please drop that in the comments now. If not, I will gladly let you go because I know you've already given us a ton of value as well. Also, you can check out more about Hugh watching the podcast interview that we did last week. It's still here on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn as well. If you want to watch that video, you can check that out. He was trying to share his story and how he arrived at this whole process as well. And he drops a lot of great information there as well. That's helpful. I'm not seeing any questions, so I don't want to hold you any longer. Hugh, do you have any other thoughts or anything else you want to share with people before we let you go?
No, look, I just, like I say, I describe this as the one greatest opportunity that business owners have. In a world where everyone's optimized every single part of their sales process, this is the one bit that no one optimizes, and it's there for the taking. If you're not taking advantage of this, you should. Please do it. I've given you the whole process, so just jump into it. But if you want, like I said, if you want some help, book a time with Dan or myself, and we can certainly guide you through that. And if you want us to get involved with that, and do that for you, we can do that as well. That's entirely up to you. But yeah, look, just get it done. Having something good there is better than having nothing at all to support your sales process.
Yeah, I think just to echo that as we're wrapping up, the fact even going through this process will open up your mind to so many more possibilities. You will look at your competitors differently. You will look at your customers differently. You will look at your business differently. And it will help to start setting you apart because you're thinking three-dimensionally about something that most people are only thinking in a very, very narrow focus. How can I get more leads? How can we do more jobs? They're thinking of it as a commodity, and you're really thinking of it as a leader. It will help you with your team because the delivery of the process will be so much better. You'll think, well, we could do this differently. We could do this better. We could do this with more excellence, with more care, and so all those different things are things that set you apart. When you think about all of the category of one businesses that are out there, Apple has a process that does things very differently. They think about the way that they lead their teams, the way that they produce their products. It communicates a level of care. We talked about this in the podcast a little bit, Hugh, about infusing love and joy into the process. And so I think if you can be as imaginative as possible, if you can be as value driven as possible, if you can be as customer centric as possible, again, and they're ultimately thinking like, we want to get the sale, but I liken it the way that you phrased it as it's not getting the sale for the sale's sake. It's because we believe we really are the best. If you really believe that you are the best and you are doing your customer a disservice by allowing them to go to someone else that isn't going to serve them at the highest level, then what are you really doing it for? You're out here in the marketplace to be an also ran. And I don't believe that that's what you are. You, Hugh, you, Dan, such excellent and deeply thoughtful entrepreneurs. I think that we all, especially in this community, want to be thoughtful, caring, impactful. It's not just about getting free of the mundane, but it's about stepping free of the mundane type of thinking and being like everybody else, right? 1% businesses, 1% leaders, serving at a 1% level. So thanks so much, Hugh, for all you shared, man. Thanks for giving us such an in-depth walk through this process. It's extremely valuable, but I would just encourage those of you who watch this to at least schedule a call with Hugh and Dan, and explore the experience, because I think it'll benefit you tremendously. And we really want everyone here to win at the highest level.
And thank you, Frederick, too, for giving us the opportunity to get our message out there as well.
You're more than welcome, man. I appreciate you so much. So with that being said, we've done our next 90-minute masterclass. I feel like we've squeezed all of the value, all the juice out of this thing that we could. For those of you who watched for a second, a minute, or longer, feel free to drop a comment below. Let us know what you received from this, what you discovered. If you're watching this on a replay, drop a hashtag replay. Let us know what your thoughts are. If you have questions, we're happy to answer those. And of course, Hugh's email and his calendar link will be in the comments as well. As always, we salute you. Onward and ever forward.